You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast with your host, Sulyce. And today's episode is episode 79. We're calling CitizenCon 2954. That's right. We are the day before this weekend's event. So CitizenCon Eve, if you will. On today's episode is all things CitizenCon. We're going to be discussing the actual website, a preview of it, the segments, what we think about each segment. But we're also going to be getting into 324.2, hitting the live persistent universe yesterday, which includes the release of the Zeus and the shops and the previews and the videos that go with it, as well as the server meshing test echo, the results from it, the after action review. So very interesting to read about the ratio of DGSs and player cap. And we have a special giveaway for CitizenCon that we will tease at the very end of this episode. So I'm very excited to get into the next hour and a half with you. Welcome in. If this is your first time listening to us, we are a very positive podcast that brings you weekly news, reviews, analysis of everything happening in Star Citizen. And now is like the best time to really get into all of that conversation, because in less than 20 hours, we're going to be hearing about the future of Star Citizen. So before we get into anything else, I recorded a little ditty that I'm going to be pushing out on social media around noon. It's going to be retweeted by CIG, but I was able to kind of go back to my days of audio production, and I wrote something and I recorded something that I think you're going to enjoy. So I'm actually going to turn off my white noise real quick. Very awkward, but I would love to just share my screen and allow y'all to just take in the next hour and a half. Oh, wow. Minute and a half. Hopefully not an hour and a half. I wrote this, recorded it for your enjoyment. Here we go. 'Twas the night before CitizenCon, and all through the verse, not a pilot was stirring, not even a purse. The Bengal was docked at Manchester with care, in hopes that Chris Roberts soon would be there. The citizens nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of the Polaris danced in their heads. And fans with their merch and I in my cap had just settled in for hopium to unwrap. Day one kicks off with worlds brand new, with Genesis tech to be showcased to the crew. A social universe shares how friendships grow, uniting our journeys in the vastness we know. Next comes the journey beyond Pyro's glow, to regions where new systems start to grow. With planets and stars just waiting to see, the crowd will marvel at what the verse soon will be. Day 2 dawns bright with crafting in mind, as build your own home leaves the past far behind. With resources gathered and bases to plan, new frontiers open wide for each citizen clan. Next comes the ships and captains of trade, unveiling new vessels for journeys long made. And to close out the day with excitement full grown, the path to 1.0 will be finally shown. As the halls quiet down and the panels are through, the verse expanded with much to pursue. From crafting to ships and tech beyond sight, CitizenCon 2954 will be a galactic delight. With new worlds to explore and friendships to make, the future of Star Citizen is clearly at stake. As the stars twinkle bright in the Manchester sky, we know that this journey is bound to fly high. So you heard it here first. I love doing that kind of stuff, but yeah, I ended up writing it. It basically wrote itself, given the agenda and everything that is attached to each segment. So I don't know. Hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to doing more of those things, because I think that's like more of my passion. Not necessarily streaming live, but recording high quality production, even if I'm not actually physically on the screen with you, but I hope you enjoyed that. So, all right, let's get into from the community, right? So again, at the end of every episode over on Spotify, we give a poll, or we ask a poll, and provide the comment section for you to react in any way that you want to from this last episode. And so episode 78, we called the final patch in Star Citizen. Let me just reiterate. I got a couple of people reach out to me last week, and they're like, what do you mean it's the final patch in Star Citizen? How dare you? You obviously didn't listen to the episode. It's the final patch, like as we know it. There won't be another 324.2. Every subsequent patch after the one that happened yesterday is going to feel new. Server meshing, new planet systems, etc. So I don't feel like I need to explain myself, but just wanted to reiterate. So the question we asked over on the polls, share my screen for those of you on Tube. Which CitizenCon topics are you looking forward to the most? Select all that apply. So I had to, because of the dynamics of, or the thresholds of how many questions I can ask or options I can give, I had to lump some of these together, so bear with me. But your options were tech improvements, org social play updates, fashion, the fashion segment, not necessarily about fashion, but Beyond Pyro, the path to Star Citizen 1.0, and base building. This actually surprised me. I'm shocked at which option won. And obviously, if you can see my screen, you already know. But the tech improvements had 23.4% of the vote. That's segment number 1. That's tomorrow morning or Saturday morning, segment number 1. They're talking about Genesis, which is the new tech suite that is part of Star Engine. So that won 23.4%. And right behind that was what I would suspect was the feature about the base building. So 21.3%. And then it kind of dies off a little bit. At 17% was the Oregon social play updates. At 14.9% was the path to Star Citizen 1.0. We had, we also had Beyond Pyro, which was 17%. And then in last place was fashion at 6.4%. I think after my discussion with Space Tomato this past Saturday, which check out that episode over on Space Tomato 2, me and him talked about this. We talked about what we thought that Starware was, and that's Star WEAR, Starware. How it ties in with Starcloth, or how it ties into the closet system on ships, etc. So we had a lot of like predictions and maybe estimates with what to expect, but no one knows. We'll find out tomorrow. So exciting there. Still sharing my screen. I'm going to go over to the comment section. Only 3 comments, so this will go pretty quick. The first one from Dakota Riley, or from the Dakota Riley. Thanks again for always engaging, my friend. Quote, "It's so hard to pick which panel is the most, or they're more excited for the CitizenCon. So I'm going to select all of them. The next 8 days are going to be long for us fans, but hopefully we will see 324.2 in the next week, which we obviously did. And then 4.0 Evocati drops soon after. And there's still a bit of hope for some kind of wider 4.0 testing at the end of CitizenCon. My tinfoil hat remains strong. I also appreciate the support on the podcast idea. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, and I just need to start planning what to do. Best advice working backwards for anybody listening, especially you, Dakota, get started. That's just get started. Your first 10, 20 episodes are going to barely be listened to, but record those knowing that when you do have a following, they're going to go back and listen to those. So they're not throwaway episodes, but set your expectations. Set your expectations. Kind of on the low side, but okay. So working backwards through their quote, yes, so 324.2 did happen yesterday as predicted. It's live. You can get in there. It's messy as heck. But the 4.0 Evocati we've seen 2 timed tests in Evocati so far. I fully expect there to be more Evocati testing in the next week. And then shortly after Open PTU, they'll do waves. They'll do a wave 1 PTU and etc. But we'll see Pyro in Q4. Now, whether or not it hits the live PU, okay, I think, yes, I think we can debate that all day long. So the next quote, Anna. So again, thank you so much for participating and engaging. Also, Bravo 1. So the three of you are constantly engaging, and I appreciate you. So Anna says, do you think it'll be possible for us to explore the Xi'an Empire, probably the Banu Empire, and possibly the Tavaran? 100%. Now, I don't know in what capacity. I have no idea in what capacity. But if the intent from Star Citizen was to release 100 systems, I mean, you would imagine that some of those would be a hostile system. I'm thinking straight, well, Xi'an's not very hostile. Tavaran obviously is. But the Xi'an Empire, the Banu Empire, like, I would imagine that those would be pretty kind of engaging, maybe neutral territory. But then once you get into the Vandul, right, the Vandul area, that should be hostile. But I would imagine in those 100 systems, we would see some of those. But maybe if you meant in Pyro, obviously not, or maybe after Pyro, it'll be a while, in my opinion. I think they're going to be launching kind of the base systems, like a Nyx, a Magnus, before we even start diving into some of these other possibilities. Bravo 1 writes, I'm just here for the ride at this point. Yeah, there's a commonality there of, like, let's just be happy with what we have. My internet is asking me to repeat my password. Sorry about that. Let's be happy with what we do get. I don't overthink things. Don't predict things in CitizenCon. There's an overwhelming movement towards that mentality of just whatever. Whatever happens. We're going to be happy with whatever we got, etc. All right, to the emails. All right, so Prime Entity, again, thanks again. I mentioned something a couple episodes ago about our org Supervision. We're participating in a murder aboard the 890 Jump, or the Elegance of the Void. We're going to be recording that for an org bonus episode, so you're going to be able to hear all the shenanigans. Hilarious. Well, Prime Entity responds, earlier they were doing some silly shenanigans on board someone's 890 Jump, lots of fun, and it was insanely difficult, and they nearly won the hide and seek. So I maintain that some of the most fun in Star Citizen is what you and your org make it. It's not so much the game loop. It's not so much getting out there and doing cargo hauling for an hour and a half, which is fun. I'm not saying that, but the most fun I have had in my years and years of playing Star Citizen is when we do something completely off kilter, like go explore Benny Hodge, go explore the downed Javelin site on Daymar. Again, nothing to do with game loops, but the murder aboard the 890 Jump is going to be so much fun. I can't wait for y'all to hear it. But playing hide and seek on the 890 Jump, that would be insane. That is a huge ship. And then Prime Entity had the tenacity to challenge me and say that Pluto is not a planet. Okay. It's a half truth. They're half right. Yes, I know. So we were doing the birthday. We were celebrating Star Citizen's 12th birthday, and I made this, crazy Excel spreadsheet that celebrated, like, how old are you per planet? And I said Pluto. Pluto is a dwarf planet. It's still considered a planet, but it's a dwarf planet. And here's a little bit of a interesting nugget for you guys out there, if you even care. The only thing keeping it away from being an actual planet is that it doesn't have spatial dominance to get rid of its debris, quote unquote, but it's not big enough in order to throw out its orbit, to throw out the debris that surrounds it. That's it. It orbits around the sun. Like, that's a criteria. So it orbits around the sun, and it's spherical in nature, but it is not big enough to throw out its debris. So I don't know. I'm still going to consider it a planet. I feel bad for Pluto. But then there's also like a 10th planet, and maybe I'd have to do research before I say that, but I'm pretty sure there's like a 10th dwarf planet. Like, if Pluto is one, there's like a 10th one out there. I don't know. I am fascinated by all things space, clearly. All right, let's get into This Week in Star Citizen. Again, a recap of what we're talking about now that we're into this week's material. We'll talk about the server meshing results, the after action review. We'll talk about the 324.2 live patch. Also coming with it was the Zeus. We have an interesting in the store, in the in-game store. We now have the inclusion of the Atlas. So you don't have to buy it with real money, $35, $40 or whatever. You can buy it in-game now, and that's super fast. It's shorter than the usual 3 months that it takes. And then, of course, we will be getting into CitizenCon. So here we go. Sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube. Let's read the article and go through the one bullet point that happened this week. Here we go. Happy Monday, everyone. It's CitizenCon week, and we're thrilled to welcome you to our biggest two-day event ever. Thousands of dedicated Star Citizen fans are already on their way to Manchester. We've even bumped into a few familiar faces around town. For those who can't make it in person, don't worry. You can still join in on the excitement on the official broadcast of both Twitch and YouTube, October 19th and 20th. The countdown to an unforgettable weekend is on. Last week, we rolled out the full event schedule and an updated floor plan on CitizenCon.com, which we will be getting into towards the end, with all the times set to local UK time. If you're joining us in person, early registration opens today, Friday, October 18th. Swing by the Charter Foyer entrance at Manchester Central Convention Complex from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time to grab your event pass and swag bag ahead of the main event. If you're arriving early in Manchester, there's plenty to enjoy. Starting Tuesday, daily community-led bar citizen events will be happening across the city. And don't miss Enter Atmosphere, a weekend highlight featuring racing exhibitions, a panel with CIG developers who have deep roots in racing and competitive gameplay, and the Fight or Flight World Championship Finals. Competitors from the US, the EU, and Asia Pacific region have been battling out all year for the chance to compete in this prestigious championship, making it an unmissable conclusion to your CitizenCon 2954 weekend. As we gear up for this week's big events, be sure to dive into the festive spirit of Spooktober and the celebrations of the Day of the Vara. Yeah, that's still going on, by the way. I completely have forgotten about Day of the Vara. The festivities continue with the thrilling Kill Collector mode in Arena Commander, chilling masks hidden in loot boxes, and 2 alluring community contests. Don't miss out on the excitement. We're proud to share that Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 has begun initial testing with our Evocati, making a significant milestone in our development journey. This achievement reflects the hard work of our team and the incredible dedication of the community, whose support has made all of this possible. This initial test is just the start, and we're excited to keep the momentum going. And then if we scroll down to the, 2 bullet points. Monday, This Week in Star Citizen. Friday, the RSI Weekly Newsletter. So how dare you, CIG, for not having more on the docket for this week? Totally kidding. They are busy. They are very busy. I'm actually very impressed. Almost every single day this week, there was an update to the PTU 324.2 patch. Almost every single day, if not every single day. They have been hard at work. Also setting up CitizenCon. Of course, not everybody's doing everything, but setting up CitizenCon, getting the community engaged, and having like 3 or 4 hot fixes a day. Like, I feel like there was one every morning, like a hot fix in the morning and a rebuild or a new build in the evening. Every single day up until yesterday's launch. As far as the Evocati, the 4.0 testing in Evocati, I am not Evocati, nor do I really ever want to be. I have my reasons. That's maybe another podcast at another time. So I can't tell you the experiences that I've had on Evocati. There are many content creators out there capitalizing on their exclusive access. Feel free to go watch them. But my friends who are dedicated testers who respond to the Issues Council have told me that it's hard. It's a hard experience, as it should be. Evocati is supposed to be very difficult, but it's really tough. They're having issues with kind of the basics of 4.0, so I don't know how close we are. I still maintain that 4.0 and the PTU probably after IAE. So IAE, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, that happens in November. It's probably going to happen. The 4.0 is probably going to happen in the PTU after IAE. So that'll give us like the month of December to really try. And then I can see at the new year, whether it's literally in January or however that's going to look, it has the potential of going live in the PU. So that's my predictions given what I am hearing from my friends who are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing in the Evocati testing. So all right, server meshing test. So here we go. On the last episode, I talked to you about my reactions to the 2,000 player test. It was super fun. If you want to hear my reactions, this is actually not a segment for that. Go listen to a previous episode. I think it was last episode. But this is the actual after action report. I'm going to read it verbatim. This is super important. I think the last time we had an after action report, I kind of skimmed through it, gave an executive summary, but I want to actually read word for word because this is the future of Pyro and Star Citizen. So if you care about the segments at CitizenCon, you probably care about something like this. So here we go. Obviously sharing my screen so you can read along with me. Server meshing test echo after action report. Hello, captains. Back with another server meshing test echo post-action report directly from the server meshing strike team. Meshing test echo was conducted on their birthday on October 10th. This test included 2 major hybrid crash fixes that were encountered at high concurrency in the last test, which prevented us from pushing forward. Other optimizations are still underway but did not make their way into the build. Our objective in this test was to measure the behavior of the hybrid at a 1,000 player concurrency. Shortly after initial launch, a new crash was encountered. It was related to client subscriptions. Fortunately, this was a configurable fatal error, and so the team was able to disarm it temporarily and continue with the test. While more optimization opportunities were observed, some key measurements show great progress and stability even at high numbers. Throughput and latency were not always at the rendezvous. Nevertheless, the team wanted to use the opportunity further and pushed to 2,000 concurrent players cap to measure stability and shake out new crashes. As expected, the 2,000 player tests was especially rough, but valuable performance captures will allow progress. The same gameplay observation from test Charlie and Delta carry over. The observations specifically in test echo. When at 1,000 plus player concurrency, long loading screens were observed across many players loading late into the game, caused by waiting for a free hab to spawn in. I literally called that out during last episode. It would be nice to see this on screen. Looking to see if a queuing mechanism to ease the spawning process can help. Also looking at other spawning options. More on this later. Observed several issues occurring with ASOP during the high player count test where the terminals would appear stuck, waiting for ships' hangars to be unstowed. After investigation, no back-end issues were detected. Further investigation is underway. Some players were seen quantum jumping through a server boundary but never actually pivot to the new authority, causing them to be effectively lost. Appeared as if no controls worked, stuck in the seat, etc. Investigation is underway, possibly related to some game servers being overwhelmed and not processing the authority transfer in time. The game server with 400 players went through a successful server crash recovery. The team cheered. Probably not as loud as Tesla and SpaceX did when they caught their rocket, but I can imagine something very similar. And last, the large area network binds need optimizations, as seen in multiple captures in all tests so far. The test was scaled back down to a 6 to 800 ratio and left there overrunning for 8 hours. So there you go. I believe the last test Delta, landed the plane at 4 to 500, so 4 DGSs to 500 player count. Here we are expanding it even further. 6 DGSs to 800 is the quote sweet spot. I mean, I am not CIG. Like 800 players versus 100 players sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. So if we're looking at 4.0 and our goal is to try to get it out before Christmas or something in December, let's just do the, let's just do the 4 to 500. Like we don't need to bite off more than we can chew. We can open up the floodgates and maybe 4.1 or I don't know, 5.0 or whatever the hell's next. But I think 6 to 800 is still phenomenal. I don't know if we need 2,000 people on a shard, but back to the article. Test Echo is the last test on the 3.24 tech preview stream, as we now have to merge back to the main 4.0 development stream and continue. This goes back to me calling the last episode the final patch. The team and I give you all a huge hand of applause for your help as we collectively bid farewell to this code stream to move forward to the next stages. The team is now assembling a series of fixes and optimizations for more meshing testing, but our next tests will be performed along the rest of the 4.0 X Mayhem. In Mayhem, it will be 100%. See you all at CitizenCon 2954 and subsequently in Test Foxtrot. So I see immense value in reading something like that. And so one of the questions I had last episode when we were talking about that server meshing experience and seeing 2,000 people in a shard, and what that means for queue times, I wanted to turn my attention maybe away from queue times and start discussing multi-crew ships. And so we go to our first poll that I asked over on Twitter, sharing my screen. We have 2 of these multi-crew roles, and this got an amazing reaction. Both of these, actually all 4 polls we're going to be going through, I think 5 polls, 1, 2, 3. All 5 polls that we're going to be going through have blown up, and I love the engagement. I hope you get value out of this as well. But this first question I asked, multi-crew roles, in the spirit of future capital ship gameplay, which role do you see yourself fulfilling aboard a Javelin, a Kraken, Idris, etc.? And look, I've always been flexible. I've in 79 episodes now, you know that I'm able to ebb and flow with the best of it, right? So if you give me feedback, I'll listen to some of it, change if I feel it necessary. This is one of those things, like, I'm convinced now. I used to think that there was a main character syndrome where everybody wanted to pilot their own ship and fly, right? Where that might be a desire. It's clearly not resonating when I ask the community. So over 3.3 thousand views. So 3.3 thousand views, 509 votes. This is relevant. It's not like 10 people. 509 votes. Almost half, 45.6%, said that they would crew on a capital ship. They would crew it. Awesome. I love that. Almost 200 people of the 509 said that they would crew a capital ship. That's great. That gives me... that calms some of my fears, anxieties of having multi-crew ships. Just a bunch of like solo flying Idrises with not a lot of group play. That's clearly not the case. In second place, 25.9%, it is the captain, right? So maybe an owner of an org or a small team element. And then 21.4% would pilot. And then 7.1% voted for co-pilot. I think co-pilot would be more if we had a better idea of what the role was of a co-pilot. Like right now, there really isn't one. You could argue that in a C1 or in the CL, they are your tractor beam operator. Sure. In other ships, you could argue that they are the power management individual. That's not fun. That's not exciting, right? So I'm very interested in what the possibilities are for those co-pilot roles. And so I saw that overwhelming number of crew, but that could mean anything. That could mean security, cargo haulers, turret operators. Enter in my next question, my next poll. Part 2, A little bit less views, a little bit less votes, but still relative. So multi-crew roles part 2. You have overwhelmingly voted on crew to be your preferred role aboard a capital ship. Now, which crew role is the most fitting for you? And again, Twitter only allows 4 options. Like, I can't list off all the different options. So again, some are consolidated, but your options were turret operator, security, engineer, or cargo loader, unloader. And 35%. So 1.9 thousand views, 350 votes, 35% went to the engineer. You would choose engineer. And then we have 24% at both turret operator and cargo unloader. And then 17.1% as security. So I always try to engage with the community in different ways. I think polls are a good way to do that, but that's an example of me totally changing my opinion. I don't think that there is a main character syndrome in Star Citizen, or you would see that directly reflected in something like that, in a poll like that. So, okay, let's get into some fun news. Yesterday, goodness. So 324.2, first off, people need to start just believing me. Not being, I'm not trying to be arrogant or cocky, but I am married to these notes, the patch notes, the monthly reports. There's a lot of us, quote unquote content creators, but there's a lot of us that are super engaged in what is being said. So I've been more times correct than not. Again, not a weird brag, but it's because we rely, me and my friends that do this, rely heavily on the data. So there was just a lot of emotional reaction yesterday when this didn't go live like first thing in the morning. Oh, it's not happening. I was even quoted in the test channel. Like, I saw the Beyond the Verse like Twitter posts being posted, and they're like, look at this idiot. He said that it was going to launch yesterday. And I don't respond to those. It is what it is. I welcome, changes of opinion or differences of opinion. But it's funny to watch that happen. And I didn't say anything. I didn't correct anything. But we all knew, me and my friends that do this, we all knew it was still happening. They have to. They had to. CIG did not have a choice. They had to launch 324.2 on Thursday to give them all day Friday, the day before CitizenCon, to pivot, hotfix, correct bugs, which they have already done. I'm going to show you that here in a second. But they didn't have a choice. And we all saw the writing on the wall. So we called it. Most of us are very calm throughout the day. And sure enough, at like 8:30 p.m. last night, US Central, they dropped it like 5 minutes before we started Org Night. So Org Night Sole Provision, we had no idea what we were going to do. We knew that it was going to drop, but we didn't know if it was going to drop before or during our Org Night. Luckily, it was before. A lot of reaction to it. We had to download the patch. We had to hurry up and get in. But we just had a social night. And a lot of us were doing the PTU, so it wasn't new for us. But when a patch drops, like, there's a lot to do. There's getting your inventory set up, loading up your favorite ship or whatever to get it off to a spaceport, like Seraphim Station. So a lot of us were doing that kind of homework, or the obligatory steps when a new patch launches. And so we were doing that last night. It was rough. It was really rough. Like, for those of us who immediately got in because we had pre-downloaded the patch and everything, it was smooth. It was exciting. We were all very excited to get in. But we had members of Sole Provision that 30 minutes, an hour sitting in a queue to get into the game. Well, long story short, it was discovered that there was a database issue. And I'm actually going to check testing chat real quick so you have the latest and greatest. I'm not going to share my screen because it docks usernames. I'm not into that. So the message of the day was edited 7 hours ago. That would be 1 a.m. US Central. Obviously, 324.2 has been released into the live environments. The PTU servers will be taken offline, but here was the update. Again, 1 a.m. US Central. Database issue should be cleared up. Players are free to log in. We will continue monitoring. So I am very confident that this has since been addressed. I haven't been able to test it yet. I woke up, got my kids to school. I recorded this podcast first thing Friday morning, so I can't validate, but I'm pretty sure things are fixed. I haven't heard from any of my org members that it's still an issue. But let's move on. 324.2 is live, and we should be excited about that. We should be excited, I would say mainly, because this is on the 4.0 code base. No, it doesn't have server meshing, but it is based off of the new code base. We're here. Server meshing is right around the corner. So if they can get this stable, which hopefully it is by some point today before CitizenCon, if they can get this stable, I think that should be the big takeaway from this patch. Sure, there are new hair and beards and tattoos and piercings in the character creation with a couple of there's over 20 new additional heads. Sure, there's new acidic and rocky caves and a new hanger spawn logic, which I don't even know what the hell that means. But there's other things that are new, right? But I do believe that it being on the new code base is the most important thing. Second, right behind that, like right behind that, is that the Zeus came out. And the Zeus is a very, very sexy ship, both exterior wise and interior wise. I wouldn't say the color scheme interior. I actually am against the inside colors, but the spatial use of the inside of the Zeus is incredible. Absolutely incredible. But anyways, here you are. Here's the live patch notes. Feel free to read this on your own. We already talked about the updates to the character creator, but I want to actually move past this piece. There's another article, and I'm still sharing my screen. So Jake Bradley, a couple of days ago, posts the patch watch, fuel, faces, and facelifts. And I think I get more value out of this article than the patch notes that we've been covering in the last couple of days and the last couple of weeks. So this explains the direct changes. And so I will actually read, it's a somewhat short article, but I'm actually going to read each one so you know what truly has changed in 324.2. So here we go. To the article, alongside marquee features like the RSI Zeus and updates to the vehicle MFDs and power management, Alpha 324.2 brings additional updates across the game, from characters to arena commander. Here we go. Character creator updates. Are you like us and spend several hours perfecting your character's look before you start a new game? 324.2 adds new options to the creator to let you tweak to your heart's content, including new hairs, new beards, the addition of tattoos and piercings, and 21 new character heads added to the DNA pool. Here's a few examples to get your gears turning ahead of the release. Boom. And I have been very excited about these updates. Now, on my character, it's funny. I've said this to my org, got some laughs. I'm going to try it out with you. Don't judge me. I actually sincerely believe this. I actually like the way I look in person, in real life. I like it more than I do in the game. Say what you will about that. I don't know. I try to emulate, like in simulations, I try to emulate myself. Because I want to like live and breathe like in space. I want to live and breathe in this simulation. But if it's a non-simulation like Baldur's Gate or some of these other games, I will go between a male and a female. I will change hair and tattoos, piercings. I'll get it all crazy. For a simulation, I try to make it as close as possible. So I do have the long hair. I do have the beard. But I did add like ear piercings and a tattoo that kind of like covers the back of the neck. So I think it overall looks badass. He looks great. I posted a picture on Twitter a couple days ago that shows it. In fact, here, let me just, I don't know, in case you're curious, let me just show it up real quick. So here, I'm really proud of the character. And the point of me doing this is that I'm very impressed. Here we go. I'm very impressed with the customization, and it's only going to grow from here. So you can see my character, you can see that nice tattoo that kind of goes up and around the ear. I love that look. The ear piercings, I'm looking forward to the changes of ear piercings. Right now you just have like studs, I think like studs, balls, and there's I think a third one, but I'm looking forward to like having the gauge. I want a gauge in my ear. I think that would look pretty cool. But all right, let's get back to the notes. All right, Arena Commander. So Arena Commander got a very, very visually aesthetic or a visually pleasing uplift. Let's go through the notes. With 324.2, we're introducing a visual overhaul to the front end of the Arena Commander with a few important changes to note. For this visual update, a new brand style has been established for Arena Commander, the host of the SimPod experience. That goes way back several years ago. This style merges Star Citizen UI styling with the more military Squadron 42 style to create a unique blend, giving Arena Commander its own identity. Previously, the front-end background was limited to static image or video, but with 324.2, we are introducing a live 3D scene for Arena Commander's background. Utilizing the instant hangers, this allows you to summon your selected vehicles and can change in size depending on your selection. The player's input is never blocked, ensuring that the scene is purely visual and immersive experience. It can be skipped if you want to get into the action as fast as possible. In addition to visual upgrades, we have made a few quality of life improvements. A force launch. Tired of that one player not readying up before going to grab a drink? Lobby hosts can now choose to launch the lobby despite their ready status. And we did experience this last night in Supervision. We ended up going over to the FPS kill collector to try to get some more their Day of the Vara challenge coins, and I did this to the group. I didn't know. I didn't know that it would just force launch. Now there's a screen that does pop up and say, "Are you sure?" I totally just clicked it without reading it. I am totally guilty of doing that to my group. But yeah, you can force launch whether they're ready or not. So just be careful if you're a group lead. All right, back to the notes. Remember my selection. Only play one game mode or just want fewer clicks? The game mode selection screen now features a checkbox to remember your selection. This causes your default mode to be the last one that you selected. All right, and probably the most important change that I think impacts everyday play is the quantum fuel consumption changes. So here we go. I'm just going to read this directly, maybe respond, but I think we all need to do better by accepting change. Whether it's good or bad, it is what it is. So let's go through it. Alongside the power management overhaul that 324.2 brings, we wanted to point out some changes to quantum fuel coming in this update. Number one, quantum fuel consumption has been unified across all drives at a rate of 1 micro SCU per 100,000 meters. This consumption rate will be varied across the drive grade and size in the future, but on average it will remain around this level. We'll let you know once future adjustments are made. Quantum drives will now reflect different strengths per size when traveling short or long distances due to differences in acceleration in each stage, as well as the top speeds they can reach. Over long distances, the larger drives will get you there faster, but over short distances, you'll find the size 1 and size 2 quantum drives are better suited to cut down travel time. The longest journey in the Stanton system should now be under 12.5 minutes. If you find a journey that takes longer, please let us know in a comment with the name of your ship. Additionally, with this change, some community tools may now be incorrect and reference fuel consumption rates no longer used in calculations, as we are using an entirely new fuel system with this update. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the quantum fuel consumption changes? Put them in the notes. Put them in the comment section, whether on YouTube or Spotify. I don't want to influence your thoughts, but my reaction is who the F cares? Whatever. It's all based on the economy. The economy is going through a mass overhaul, whether it is the actual buying economy or the economy of resources. I think as we move towards a more refined state, Star Citizen 1.0, as we move closer to that, I think these changes need to happen. Now, will they over-index? Will the pendulum swing so much that it's like a negative experience to another negative experience? Yes. Do you even play Star Citizen? You know the answer to that. But I do think in the next couple of months or years, we'll see that pendulum kind of settle, and it'll settle in its right place. But this needs to happen for quantum drives and fuel to matter. Because right now it doesn't matter. It doesn't. You just go and you get the most expensive, the XL1 quantum drive. You put that in every single ship that it fits in, and you have the best quantum drive. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Like, why would you buy a lesser quantum drive in this current moment? Well, now you have an example. If you're just traveling short distances, so if you're a C1 or a Zeus CL, you might not be traveling from Stanton to Pyro. I said might. You might not be traveling from Stanton to Pyro. You might just be local within, Stanton. Cool. Get a lesser quantum drive. That makes total sense. But if you're going to take a whole A or Alpha or a whole Charlie from Stanton to Pyro, get the biggest quantum drive you can, 100%, right? And yes, there's a jump drive. That's a whole different conversation. I'm saying to get from the point A to point B when you jump. I know. All right. So with Alpha 324.2, probably the biggest thing that everybody's super excited about is the Zeus. I freaking love this ship. Love it so much. Let's go through the marketing of the Zeus Mark II. So main screen, you're seeing the beauty of it. Here is the Zeus ES. Here is the Zeus CL. We could debate all day long about the color schemes, but the good news is that when this ship launched, it came with a bunch of color schemes that you can buy, or liveries, whatever you want to call them, that make this ship look amazing. Again, the Solstice, which is no longer available, that was a last year thing, but the Solstice Concierge paint is hands down the best looking paint, but we get some pretty good next options. So here we go. To the website, become a legend. Anyone with even a passing knowledge of aerospace history will be familiar with the legendary Zeus and its pivotal role in humanity's conquest of the stars. Ready to ferry a whole new generation of travelers across the universe? Robert Space Industries is proud to introduce a starship 8 centuries in the making, the Zeus Mark II. Let's watch the trailer. Let's see here. How can I do this smoothly? There we go.
I'm not gonna go get it. Are you scared? You what if you go to look at my shop, guys.
Abort, Seleno! Abort! It's not gonna hold!
Respectfully disagree, sir.
Damn it, Michelle, this isn't order. It's too dangerous! What's your status, Captain Seleno? Seleno.
I did it, sir. We did it.
Boom. So, yeah, the marketing is getting so good. The more that we can have of like these ships being released with story, like the Seleno, I mean, the more invested I think we are with the world, right? With the universe that is being, created. So you just saw a video. If you're hopefully watching on Spotify or on YouTube, you obviously saw the video. But if you're just on podcast, let me recap. There's an article here on the website about Michelle Seleno. Her legacy lives on. Born on Earth in 2096, Michelle Solano lived to push boundaries. As a Navy pilot, she became the first human to successfully quantum beyond Jupiter. Looking for the next challenge, she then established the now legendary 999th or the 999th Test Squadron to test cutting-edge developments in the ship technology. Her work refining RSI's new quantum drive helped propel ordinary citizens to the stars in the trailblazing RSI Zeus. Michelle Solano's pioneering spirit persists in every spacefarer today, and what better way to honor her than in the Zeus Mark II? So again, I love everything about it. Moving on. So here we go. This is, I guess, the images of the Zeus Mark II. I don't know why it started on picture 6 of 9. All right, so here's picture 1 of 9. You see, so this is the ES. This is the Mark II ES, but you can see the, I'm not gonna say pilot, you can see one of the astronauts or whatever coming out of that docking collar. That is one of the coolest features of this ship. Again, kind of teased it last week, but you can actually get out of the main bridge. You can get out of the bridge through the docking collar and actually climb on top of your ship. So aside from the Corsair, I think this is the only other ship that you can just get on top of your ship. Very cool, great screenshot opportunities, but the future of docking is going to be very interesting. It's also interesting, like usually your docking collar is the most protruding object of your ship because it has to connect to a collar. It has to actually connect. But this is like submerged. So I'm interested, like that is such a tight spot to fit a corridor from a docking collar to a docking collar. So I'm very interested to see how this design is going to allow docking between spaceports or other ships. So that is one design question that I have, but I thought this was a good image to illustrate that. Image number 2, here's the CL using the tractor beam that's built into a compartment above the cargo bay. Very cool design. Kind of tucks away nicely in this little compartment, but you can see it at work loading boxes into the back. That's great. I think loading cargo in the back of a CL still has its dynamics. It still has its issues that we need to figure out either as gamers and strategize, or CIG needs to remove some barriers, but it's kind of clunky. You got to get used to it. So still love the CL. A great view of the 3 pilots, I'm going to call them pilots, in the cockpit. Love everything about it. I don't know why they're showing me combat. These are not combat ships. That image, yeah, I'm very sure that this is the ES. I was going to say MR with a paint job because the MR is black and blue, but it is an ES. I don't know why an ES is in combat. It's an exploration vessel, and they're not really known for their combat prowess. But moving on, picture 5, beautiful screenshot with a planet in the back. I'm pretty sure that is, do I say Hurston? Maybe Hurston? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Beautiful top-down view of the Zeus CL. Gorgeous. 7 out of 9 shows us a picture of both next to each other. And then one of my favorite shots is the Zeus ES flying across a moon with the sun rising or setting. Just a beautiful, beautiful shot. That should be wallpaper worthy. And then the last image is CL leaving a space station. It's just a great looking ship. People are calling it the Dorito ship. Yes, it is skinny and angular like a Dorito chip, but I think the design language, they nailed it in my opinion. Technical specs. Length is 45.69 meters. The cargo, they don't have the beam information. Well, I guess so. Okay. So the length is 45.69. The cargo is 32 SCUs. This is the ES, by the way. The width is 34.3 meters in flight. When it's landed, the wings come up, so 26.3 meters landed. Quantum fuel tank, it's 1 as a size 3, and then a crew is 3 people, pilot, co-pilot, and a turret operator, and then they have 4 shield generators, 4 size 2 shield generators. So again, this is the ES, beautiful ship, And then, yeah, so let's talk about the prices. These are expensive. They are absolutely expensive. And I have a better view for this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead, and I'll come back to that here in a second. But what I do is I come here in the extra, the pledge store extra, and I search by Zeus, and then I always sort by price just so I can see the price. This is, to me, a better view. So we got the Zeus Duo Pack. It's 10-year. When they say 10-year, they're referencing the insurance. So it's 120 months or 10 years. So here's the Zeus Duo Pack. It has both with all the paints. In fact, let me just click on it real quick. No, it's just both without the paints. That's very expensive. The Zeus Legacy Pack. So this is a war bond price, the same thing. It's for $300, but you're also getting the Zeus Starscape outfit, as well as the Starscape paint livery. Okay, then we got more packs. That was $300. So the Zeus Duo Pack 10-year war bond is $300. You just see them on screen. I don't want to just keep listing off the same thing, but what we don't have here is the concierge. So last CitizenCon, when this was announced and it went on sale, that was your chance to get the concierge package that has the Solstice livery. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Now, if I come here and I go to paints, I think I got to go to you actually go to paints. If I go to paints, and I'll do the same thing, you search by Zeus. And again, I'm going to search by price. This is my best way of looking at the paints. So you've got a Zeus solar paint. This is mainly orange with black highlights. The Starscape is the opposite. It's mainly black with orange highlights. You've got the purple haze, which, whatever, we already talked about how we feel about the green goo purple haze for the Day of the Vara event. And then you've got the Sunswept paint, which is mainly yellow with black highlights. So the Zeus is an amazing ship. Amazing paint livery. So if you're not keen on what comes standard, like the mainly blue with yellow highlights, if you're not keen on that, there are other options to go to, and they're roughly like $6. So they're not super expensive. I'm trying to go back to the main page unless there's anything else to talk through real quick. Ship packs, paints, subscriber offers, warbond. No, that is it. So let's go to the polls. Again, I told you there were 5 polls to get through. This poll was specifically about the Zeus. Now, this is funny. Wednesday, before anybody knew anything, Wednesday, CIG, I am pretty sure, accidentally announced that they were releasing the Zeus on Thursday. Because on Wednesday, their marketing team or their community team, whoever, puts out a post that says, like, in order to welcome the Zeus planned for this Thursday, here is a picture. And we're like, oh, really? So that was a subtle commitment to a Thursday launch. And that's kind of what fueled everybody to really expect this to come on Thursday. So when Thursday happened, or when that post happened, I asked a poll. This poll has 1.8 thousand views, 345 votes, and the question is, when the Zeus becomes available tomorrow, which was Thursday, what model will you be picking up? And only the ES and the CL will be flyable, but I suspect all 3 can be purchased tomorrow. I was actually wrong about that. It's only the 2. But here you go. The Zeus CL, the Zeus ES, the Zeus MR, or none. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. So this is interesting. Again, out of 345 votes, 32%, the majority, 32% voted none. Now, if you go through the comment section, it's because they already owned. So it wasn't that they weren't invested or they weren't going to get the Zeus. It's that they already had it. So it's kind of a mixture. And unfortunately, there wasn't a better way to ask this question. Maybe instead of none, I could have put already own, but then that would have left out all the people who said that they didn't want the Zeus. And I thought that was an important, thing to capture. So in first place, or the majority, 32% voted none. And then we have 29.3% voted on the Zeus CL, the cargo variant. 24.1% has the Zeus MR, and then the base variant, the ES, 14.8%. So this happened, if you take away the none, it happened how I suspected. The cargo variant is very much, I would say it's your entry-level cargo hauler. Yes, the C1 can also play that role, but this is just better. In my opinion, this is better in every measurable than the C1. So the Zeus CL becomes your everydayer, your cargo hauler. That makes sense to me, that almost a third would vote for the Zeus CL. The Zeus MR is super attractive. That's the military variant. Can't wait to see that come. Not exactly sure why they would launch the CL and the ES without the MR, other than maybe there needs to be updates to the bounty missions. So the prison system, right? Like taking a bounty from one place to another. Maybe that needs to be fleshed out before they'll release, a prison system like the Zeus MR. But then you could argue that the Cutlass Blue has prison cells. So if you have the Cutlass Blue flyable, why not make the Zeus MR flyable? I don't know. A question I would ask CIG is why 2 of the 3 and not all 3? So I thought this was a pretty interesting poll. Real quick, this is probably not segment worthy for a podcast, but I do think it's worthy enough to bring up. But the Argo Atlas was expedited. Not to like completely pivot or change the subject, but this is part of 324.2, so it's part of the same segment. The Argo Atlas was decided to come to the in-game shops before the 3-month time expectation. So it is now available. You can go to a place. I think you can rent it. I'm pretty sure you can rent it, but you can buy it for sure. So here you go. I would melt if you have bought this. Maybe you want to keep. So if you want to keep the paint, then ship upgrade from the Atlas, and you'll be able to keep the paint and whatever ship you upgrade to, obviously. But if you didn't get the paint, melt this. Put $35 back into your shop and buy this. I think it's 75,000. Pretty sure it's 75,000 in game. So very easy to attain. Just do 2 or 3 cargo missions and you have enough to get yourself the Argo Atlas. And what I think is a good pull or a good piece of advice, buy one for every single station, so that way you're not having to claim it every time you need to use it. So obviously my home is always Orison, so I always make Seraphim Station kind of my go-to. I will at least have the 2, one that stays in Orison and one that stays in Seraphim Station. And then what's probably going to happen is every time, I'll probably do one at every single residence in every single space station. So I have at least 2 in every system. That's not that expensive. It's pretty easy, in my opinion. With that, we are now finally talking CitizenCon. So here we go. Sharing my screen, and I'll be sharing my screen from here on out for the rest of the episode. CitizenCon. First off, FOMO. I am so jealous of those of you who are able to go to Manchester. I deliberately chose not to, so I can't. I'm not mad at myself, or I'm not mad at anything else. But I chose not to go. Save the money. Didn't want to get on the flight and go all the way to the UK. But for those of you going, I hope this finds you well. I hope you enjoy the hell out of CitizenCon. I loved last year's Los Angeles one. The VIP party was amazing. Y'all saw the pictures on my socials. I have pictures with Chris Roberts, Sandy Roberts, Jake Bradley, Jared Huckabee, John Crew, Tyler Whitkin, just amazing CIG individuals. But then I would say more importantly, a lot of the creators, Authentic Gamer, Authy Gamer, DePoets, and then some fans of mine. I have fans of mine where we took pictures together. It was just amazing for that community, for that build, right? To this day, the top listened to episode of Beyond the Verse podcast is my Pyro episode. So my episode I recorded after CitizenCon, I called Pyro, and it's still pretty far ahead of all other episodes. But we talk about the experiences. I show pictures. Feel free to go back and look at that and watch that. But we're not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about this CitizenCon. Let me refresh my screen so you can see the new timer, because it's not 20 hours. It's 18 hours and 18 minutes. All right, so let's talk about what I'm going to do for CitizenCon. I have debated for days now whether or not I was going to live stream and react, and that's not me. At least in my current place of where I'm at with the show, with where I'm at, where I want to go. The whole live stream reaction, me thinking that my opinion is somehow more important than what you can hear from the CIG developers. That's not a hit on anybody who's doing the live stream reactions. But for me personally, I don't want to hear about some person's emotional reaction to the game. There's going to be content creators that are going to be live streaming CitizenCon who are not going to be happy with everything. There's going to be some things that they get upset about, and they're going to punch their chairs over it. I don't care about how you feel and your inability to control your emotions. So for me personally, I would go straight to the source and watch. Now, what I will do, so in Sole Provision, we're going to convert some of the channels to specifically CitizenCon, where we will watch this together, right? Because we're a community. We're a bunch of friends and family that are sitting down and watching this. So we're going to have a general chat. We're going to have the ability to watch this together, and we'll react in that way, but we're reacting to it as friends. I'm not going to pretend like somehow my opinion is more important than what Jared Huckabee can say on the stage. So there we go. There's my commitment to you. For what that's worth. Okay, we did this last episode, so I'm not necessarily going to go through every single segment, but I would encourage you to listen to the episode over on Space Tomatoes podcasts, where I was a guest host. We go through everything on CitizenCon, and we talk about our opinions on each one of these segments. A lot of this is guessing. Like, we don't necessarily know what the starware system is for Dress to Kill. We don't really know what that means. We can guess, right? We can have a hypothesis, but at the end of the day, we simply just don't. We don't know. The Genesis technology suite that's in the first segment. Okay, who knows? I will say this is the same segment that the Future of Gaming video that went viral. It happened in this first segment. So at 11 a.m., which is our, 3 a.m.? Nope, 5 a.m. So 5 a.m. U.S. Central is when Brave New Worlds is going to start. That's probably going to be a very important time to be part of a live show. So Brave New Worlds is going to be amazing. Beyond Pyro, of course, is going to be super interesting of where we go from here after Pyro. And then, of course, that 5:30, that redacted, even if it's a play test of Squadron 42, I guarantee you there's going to be a new vertical. There's going to be a new vertical slice or a marketing preview or something about Squadron 42 at 5:30 p.m., which would be our 11:30 a.m. Here in Texas. So that's going to be super exciting. Day 2, of course, all things base building, and heaven forbid, they're talking about Star Citizen 1.0. That's going to be very polarizing, I think. So to the polls. I asked about your day 1 and day 2. A lot of really good responses. So in the first poll, 1,300 views, 154 votes. What is your most anticipated segment from day 1? And again, Twitter only allows 4 options, so I had to get rid of cosplay. Sorry. So we have the tech, the Genesis, and Starware, a social universe, Beyond Pyro, and then that redacted Squadron 42. Clearly and obviously, the redacted Squadron 42 won about 41%. Then Beyond Pyro at 34%, a social universe at 14%, and tech 11%, which is so strange that is the complete opposite of what the community that listens to the show is interested in. right? Because tech won at the beginning of this podcast, as we discussed. So for day one, Redacted Squadron 42 took the win. And then here's day two, same exact question, but your options were Crafting Your Home, Captains of Industry, and Star Citizen 1.0. 1,800 views, 232 votes. The winner is Star Citizen 1.0 at 46%, then Crafting Your Home at 41%, and then Captains of Industry at 13%. So yet again, another example of why I think the polls are just killing it. How does that align with you? I'm curious. How does that align with you? We'll get into the giveaway special that we have that I'm giving away from CIG, so we'll get into that, but it does involve these segments, so be thinking about what you enjoyed the most. So if you're listening to this maybe after CitizenCon, what was your favorite and why? And that will probably be my my poll for today's episode. The comment section for today's comment section, I would love for it to be centered around what was your biggest takeaway from day one and day two. What was your biggest takeaway, the biggest surprise? Because next week I'm recording with Space Tomato on Beyond the Verge podcast about our reactions to CitizenCon. So there you go. All right. So there's a new map. I don't necessarily know what the change was. I don't see anything new, but they said that they changed the floor map, and I don't necessarily notice a change. But I am hearing that is an F7C, life-size F7C Hornet that is actually in the hangar in the main room. So that'll be very awesome to see some of those notes or some of those pictures being taken while physically there. We have some. Ooh, why did it go to the Zeus Mark II? First time seeing that. Very cool. We now have a CitizenCon offer, the starter pack. So it's an Avenger Titan. It's $56, but it's the Avenger Titan plus bonus items. Let's take a look at what those are. It's the Avenger Iron Weave paint, 15,000 UEC starting money. Of course, the Star Citizen digital download, and that also comes with RRS Arden armor. So that's the helmet, core, backpack, arms, legs, as well as the sniper rifle. And then 24-month insurance and the AeroView hanger. So this is a very, very, very jam-packed starter pack. Very interesting. So if this is your first time listening or your first time considering getting into Star Citizen, here is one option. But there's also another option. You can use my referral code or anybody's referral code, but you can use my referral code and you will get the hover quad. Good Lord, I just had a brain fart. But you get the hover quad with a really, really, really nice paint livery as well. It's the Copperhead paint. But it's nice. It's that cream with the copper highlights. But you and I would both get this. So super exciting there. So boom. I think that's really it for the CitizenCon changes. I would love to hear from you. Again, this podcast has always been around you and the community. If you're participating in the cosplay contest, send me pictures. Send my email. That's contact@beyondtheversehq.com. Send me pictures so I can have those and share with you those pictures. Really, if you're going at all, period, and you want to have your pictures showcased on this episode or on next week's episode, send them to that same email address, and I would love to share those. Community booths. I would love to see the ingenuity and the creativity of some of y'all's community booths. I remember last year for CitizenCon, there were some amazing displays, like Legos of the Bengal Carrier, if I'm not mistaken. But we had Lego sets that replicated, things from Star Citizen. Just incredible experiences. So I think that's it. It starts in less than 24 hours. And that to me, I mean, this is it, right? Every content creator for Star Citizen, we live for the next 2 days. This sets the tone, right? This wraps up everything in 2024, and it sets the tone for not only 2025, but the path forward, and whatever the hell that path is. Because if you ask anybody right now, 8:50 a.m. on October 18th, no one knows what the future is. You can suspect all day long, right? You can ideate and have hypotheses all day long, but no one knows. But in the next 20 hours, we will then find out, right? So I'm super, super excited. I hope this episode was educational for you. I hope it was entertaining for you. If this is your first time listening, like, subscribe, do all the things. But I'm trying my best to bring y'all content creators that have the positivity. Honestly, I would love to bring on somebody who doesn't see things through like the same positive lens. I think it'd be great to have a good debate. It's just finding the right person. Not everybody is emotionally mature to be able to say like, my baby's ugly. There's not a lot of people who are willing to kind of sit down and have that conversation. But I would love to have anybody on the show that can have like that kind of debate. But we err on the side of just positivity, looking forward. It's better, it's easier, it's more fun to look forward to what can be. But that's the branding of Beyond the Verse. We did last year, actually earlier this year as well. We've had CIG employees and developers on as well. We're aiming to get more on, but because this was such a driven year, right? Pyro supposed to be over the summer and all the other tech things that have happened. We were told by the community team that they've had to kind of nix the involvement in podcast and content creation, so I really haven't seen a lot, but we're looking for next year to get CIG employees on as well. So this is a great place to be, and I hope you found your home. All right, if you want to become part of the conversation, you can do so at following our socials at /BTV_cast. Over on YouTube, it's actually / BTV_cast. You can email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. You can also join our in-game organization called Soul Provision, about 180 people in there, and about half are extremely active at www.robertspaceindustries.com /orgs/provision. I hope this finds everybody well. Enjoy your CitizenCon. Be safe if you're traveling. Safe travels as you traverse Beyond the Verse. Take care, everybody.